Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is a different live stream. I'm just going to go right into it, and basically with my title. It goes like this: uh, Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor's criticism of President Obama and Joe Biden was baseless and myopic. This is a counter to Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor's Professor Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor's column in the New York Times dated February 5th, 2020. In it, she goes back to a trope that she's had for years, but many are not familiar with. She says President Obama wasn't transformational, but behind her words, over a decade old, rests the idea that someone black should not be in power. She, like the like-minded she addresses, never got behind Obama to start with, a fact she doesn't share in her New York Times column. Here's why Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor is wrong about Obama and that he was a transformational politician. First, as Professor Taylor seems bent on forgetting, Barack Obama was America's first black president. Aside from that fact alone, Obama's rise to the White House gave those of us who were black an unprecedented level of access to power. I'm reminded of a Black Enterprise magazine photo of Obama White House key employees, 12 strong, all black, lined up not to pose, but to show them at work. To see that and not have some view, as I did, that such a level of access, a level of success wasn't possible for yourself as a black person is to admit a shockingly high level of myopia, not to mention an incredibly giant level of self-hatred. Second, President Obama launched the unprecedented Economic Recovery Act. It would seem that over Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor's memory, she failed to factor in the fact that when Barack Obama took over, America's economy was in free fall. The answer posed to help the U.S. economy on the part of Obama's presidential challenger, the late Senator John McCain, was to have a giant tax cut for the rich and middle class at a time when direct subsidies, Keynesian economics, was needed. Obama won in a landslide, and after an election that brought out the first doses of a new kind of racism that was exhibited by Bill and Hillary Clinton in South Carolina, went to work with his vice president, Joe Biden. In 2.5 years, Obama and Biden managed to turn around a failing economy. But Obama's success also scared those who feared a truly racially mixed America. Remember, racism is a mental illness, and showed and allowed themselves to believe the many lies told about President Obama, most notably his place of birth. It's Hawaii, y'all. All of that and more caused Obama's coattails to be less than one would have hoped for in the 2010 midterms, which also saw the rise of the Tea Party, an effort that had more than its share of dog whistle racism. For Professor Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor to forget all of that is purely stunning. But then so are many current efforts among some so-called black leaders that add up to pushing us back to the times of begging for scraps at the table rather than building the table itself. And that gets me to point number 3. Third, Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor's reflects the Black Lives Matter view that there's an overarching white power structure and blacks have no power. So Black Lives Matter leaders are fond of pointing to areas in the system where they perceive us as powerless. Black Lives Matter leaders have no room in their view of the world for black entrepreneurs in tech, let alone blacks in charge. The very idea that a black person can build a tech economy featuring the next killer app is completely blind to them. So Black Lives Matter talk has no room for how blacks can make a better world through tech. The main focus of Black Lives Matter is to remind whites of how powerful some of us black folks think they are. Forget that the white person is just can be poor like the black person. Forget that many whites are in interracial relationships with blacks. No, it's all about blacks having less than whites, constantly pointing that out, or that idea, and then not working to increase black economic power, but whining about how much they think white folks have. And caught up in all of this is Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor's apparent desire to join President Trump and trash the Obama legacy. Come to think of it, the professor's take is very much born of the approach Black Lives Matter leaders take. They want to tear down Obama's truly transformational presidency in truth because they can't handle the idea of a black man in power. They're far more comfortable with President Trump because he's what they're comfortable with, seeing a white guy in charge. The professor has to come to terms with one simple, hard truth. She doesn't want to admit it, but it's fact. Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump because she wasn't as popular with black Americans as Obama was. Period. Right there. Moreover, Clinton lost because she ignored President Obama's key advice and reason for his election success. Have one message for everyone, regardless of color or sex or class. Period. End of story. Stay tuned. Now, I'm going to add this postscript because I intended to make this vlog and then let that be that. But I'm quite concerned with where our society is turning from my perspective, observing in particular us as African Americans, even more so than blacks around the world. There is constant talk of what we don't have. Constant habits of using social media, not to point out successes, there is that, but to point out social failures and point out consistently examples where the white power structure is acting against blacks, and only that. And this is done on platforms that are made by what Black Lives Matter leaders and persons like the professor call, who is a Black Lives Matter leader, the media. They don't work to call the media they're talking about what it really is, which is white run, the white media. They simply call it the media. And in that activity, there is, again, repeated the habit of acknowledging the white person as if that person is on high, with the money, with the power, and that the black person has no choice but to feed that power beast, as opposed to making their own Twitter platform or Twitter style platform. I made one called Tellin.me for a few years ago. Easy to make, hard to get traction for, but you got to do it. But I digress. Every time I turn around, it doesn't matter whether it's on Twitter or Facebook, primarily, there's someone complaining about the media, not addressing it as the white media, and then using a white media platform, Facebook in this instance, to point out racial and social injustices. And then talk about how blacks don't have power. And then at the same time, ignoring those of us who do have platforms. Let's take Morgan DeBaum, who has Blavity, as if we don't matter. How the hell can you expect to achieve true equality, true change, without helping to build systems and platforms made by those persons who are Black? You can't. To attempt to believe that you're going to achieve any success with your approach is not folly, it's insanity. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. And thank you for your time. I'll be back with a normal live stream on sports and, yes, the Las Vegas Raiders stadium issue.